Support comes from the Janice Hawkins Cultural Arts Park on the main campus of Troy University, featuring the International Arts Center, the Fred Nall Hollis Museum, and the Huabaoju Gallery. More information at troy.edu/artspark.
I'm Kate Nesbitt, and this is The Rounds, a podcast where nursing professionals, community leaders, and nursing faculty share stories and practical advice for current and future nurses of all specialties.
And I'm Brooke Mosley, a nursing student here at Troy University.
Today's topic is not an easy one, but it is an important one. We're talking bereavement care, specifically bereavement care for those going through the loss of an infant.
Our guest is Miss Kinsey Entrekin. She is a fourth semester nursing student here at Troy University. She is also the founder of a student organization called SNAIL, and that stands for Student Nursing Aid in Infant Loss.
They're helping nursing students learn how to provide bereavement care to patients who have lost an infant.
So tell us kind of what made you start SNAIL.
Whenever you're in third semester of nursing school and you go through your OB clinical program, you go to an orientation where a member from Southeast Hospital comes and talks to you about their bereavement care team. And while she was talking about it, I felt kind of called to participate either with donating my time or crafts or volunteering when I could. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought maybe there's a bigger amount of students out there who want to help as well. And so in talking to some of those other students that I know were passionate about L&D or NICU, it made me realize there was a big student presence who did want to help out as well. And in looking at it with Ms. Davis, who teaches the OB course, we found out that there is not a student-led presence in nursing. There is for ACOM, which is the College of Medicine in Dothan, but for nursing specifically, there wasn't one that existed.
Have y'all had any meetings or any education about infant loss and the bereavement? Did you get that from your OB class with Dr. Davis?
She touched partially on it. It was toward the end of our semester. You spend the whole semester learning, like, these are your pregnancy normals, or this is what you're expecting whenever a patient comes in to the labor and delivery floor. And then toward the end of the semester, she kind of touched on the topic of, sometimes it's not normal. Sometimes they come in and they're stillborn, or they miscarried, or you might have a fetal demise, and how do you care for a patient who was expecting to leave with this baby and instead they're leaving with nothing. But really a lot of the education that we've received so far is from the bereavement care team head leader in Southeast Hospital. Her name is Connie Colley. She's really touched on a lot of how do we care for these patients, and what she's done is she started these care package boxes that go home with them as kind of a keepsake. They have resources for counseling. They have a program where they send cards out every, I think it's 1 month post when they came to the hospital, then 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, up to a year, just to keep in contact with them and let them know that, there's still a resource for them.
Mm-hmm. Was there any misconceptions that you've learned about infant loss and all of this?
I think a lot of people either have a fear of it being a taboo subject to talk about, or they feel like, oh, if I bring it up, then I'm just reminding them of their pain, when in reality what we have found is you can't remind someone of something that they're grieving about. It's always going to be constantly there, and by not shying away from the topic, you're inviting that helpful, sometimes therapeutic conversation for them, rather than pretending it never happened, or, that kind of illustrates well, you should just get over it. Let's pretend it never happened. I don't want to talk about it. So actually being able to talk about it, that I guess was, especially at the beginning, there was a lot of, well, maybe they don't want to talk about it. Maybe I should just keep my mouth shut and help on the sidelines. But in my first kind of month talking about it, it was when we realized there was a lot of, no, they need to talk about it, and I need to not be scared to bring it up, because it does happen. And when it happens, the best thing I can do is be sincere and let them know, like, hey, I am so sorry for your loss. Like, I'm not going to pretend it didn't happen. I'm not going to be quiet about it.
And I think from the nursing student perspective, you never really know what you're supposed to say in that situation, and that's kind of how SNAIL has helped. They're teaching students it's it's okay to talk about it. You don't have to stay quiet. Are there any other challenges that nursing students kind of face with loss that you've discovered over this?
You know, especially calling it SNAIL, it being specific to infant loss, we have started kind of advertising it as just like overall bereavement care. Mm-hmm. And I always have said, I gave a presentation the other week on SNAIL and was very clear about, like, no matter what specialty you go into, you're going to see bereavement in the ER, pediatrics, ICU, hospice. It's everywhere. You can't avoid it. And as much as it's a hard subject in infant loss, because nobody, you may expect your elderly grandparent not to make it in the hospital, but you don't expect your baby not to make it. So as much as it's a hard topic in infant loss, it's a necessity for, I think, any nursing student really to be able to initiate these conversations and stand in their own confidence in them, whether they're hard conversations or uncomfortable conversations.
Mm-hmm. With all of this talk about it being like a general bereavement and helping lots of people with dealing with in a hospital setting and patients and bereavement, what made you choose infant loss as the specialization? Why not a group that, whether it is nursing or it's a generic health students who are going to be involved dealing with loss of patients of their own? Why not have something that's a general loss? What made y'all focus in on the infant loss?
I think the first thing that kind of pulled me in toward infant loss was my intended specialty in nursing is NICU, so it's pretty infant targeted. And while there is a need for being well educated in how to care for people experiencing grief in any nursing specialty, part of what pulled me into infant loss was seeing the need for it. When we were looking into starting a organization, we first looked into starting a chapter at the university, but that's when we realized there was no chapter to start because there was no organization in place. And so I did recognize the need for it. And also knowing that Alabama is not necessarily the front runner for women's health care. Mm-hmm. There is a lack of presence when it comes to the care that we provide to any mother coming in, but especially mothers who come in and they don't get to leave with their baby.
Yeah. And it is like a special loss, isn't it? Almost every other loss that you experience is a loss of someone you've grown to know. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of history that comes with it. And so when people are talking about it, I can kind of understand when someone who's dealing with somebody who's had an infant loss, I can understand the difference is they don't want to talk about it because it's hard. I mean, you don't want to talk about anybody who's experienced a loss or talk about the loss in general, but they always say that it's easier to go through a loss when you talk through it because you're remembering all of these good things. But there is normally I'm guessing with infant loss, so little time to experience anything. And those memories are, I know when I was pregnant, I thought I was crazy because I was the only one who's experiencing stuff. So I can't imagine losing something and no one else experienced it. No one else got to feel the kick or experience any of that stuff or, all of those little moments that as a woman I got to feel. And I can't imagine, I don't know. I know it's supposed to be good to talk about it, but I can't imagine going to somebody and wanting to talk about something because there's almost nothing to reminisce about it.
Right. I think that's part of the frustration there is, if I say I were to lose my grandparent, well, I have siblings and parents and maybe members from the community who, I remember your grandma, she was so sweet. But if it's my child and it was during pregnancy, I'm really the only one who ever felt.
It makes you feel alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the most recent statistic is, 1 in 4 pregnancies end in a miscarriage, and there's such a almost,
you can't even imagine those early ones. Mm-hmm. It's more than just this drop of excitement mm-hmm. of this almost disappointment feels like the wrong word, but it's more than that. But it's also I'm unable to comprehend it. I don't want to. Mm-hmm. Hope I never do, but at the same time, I can't imagine. There's a lot of things where I think I could probably imagine something. I can imagine what you're going through a little. I'm maybe not have experienced it, but I can kind of understand and can see it. But with that, I don't know where I would begin at all.
Well, and I think the care packages that Miss Connie does kind of help with that, because while I don't have many memories with my child, I've got these little keepsakes that are either like they're magnet, but it's the shape of a foot, like a door magnet, or she makes the little stuffed animals that are like the same size and weight of the baby.
Yeah.
She does a really good job, and they're very tastefully done. There's a lot of people who help out with it where, like, they make little remembrance stones where they put their their handprint on it, and it's the actual handprint that they can carry with them. They make bracelets that have the child's name and their date of birth, and she does a really good job of implementing. They also work with a organization called Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep. It's a photography organization that they come in and they dress the baby, or they lay it in cloth to make it presentable, because sometimes they're not. I mean, you might have a fetal demise due to a congenital issue. So they'll wrap it and make it look presentable and take pictures, because those are the only pictures they'll have. They don't get first day of school pictures. They don't get holiday pictures.
Almost like that's the only evidence too.
Right.
Things that you can show, and things that you can hold on to. That also is another part of it that I think that you don't necessarily think about, and you necessarily probably don't want to think about, but the connection that you have with someone that you've known for a while, that you can hold something. I am weird. I collect people's clothes. So I have multiple family members. I have little things of theirs. Like I have my dad's like windsuit from when I was growing up that he used to wear. It's like an 80s windsuit. It doesn't look good. I think it's got holes in it, actually. But that's something that I'm like, no, that screams my dad. So if he passes, I have something I know that I can hold on to as my memory. But, I mean, with a baby like that, you don't have almost anything. And that's a great service to have, to be able to give those moms something. I don't know if I could ever, there's times where I think I could be a nurse, and there's times like this where I'm like, nope, I'm really glad that I don't. I think I could be strong enough to do just about any of those, blood things. But this especially is something that's like, I'm not sure if I could be strong enough. And I really commend y'all for wanting to go through this, and commending all of the people who are already nurses and those who are leading all of this, the bereavement teams on especially the OB floor, and again, social workers as well, because they're also angels, because they are willingly and voluntarily going into what I think are the worst times in people's lives. They're helping you get they want to help you get from rock bottom and want to see you succeed. But I don't know how most of y'all healthcare professionals like that do any of this.
Well, and what really shocks me just about like labor and delivery and mom and baby nursing, when it comes to choosing a specialty as a nursing student, you're always told, oh, well, baby mama, you're not going to experience much loss. You're not, like, most cases are good and happy and everybody's just joyous. And it's like, but no.
Yeah.
That's, no matter what aspect of nursing, there's going to be some sort of death and grief and bereavement. And so even if you're
just heightened emotions.
Yes.
I mean, day of delivery, I can tell you I was very angry, and my nurses saw the worst side of me. If I was annoyed, they knew, and they were also annoyed with me. But I could just, and they still had a smile on their face, and they were still very accommodating and clear communication, and also having to deal with families. Like, it's not just the patient, it's also those patients' families that you're having to deal with and kind of help guide through as well.
Right. And while what we're doing is kind of targeted at the loss aspect, it is also, you can go into a pregnancy and things can go wrong. You can have an emergency, you can have a postpartum hemorrhage, you might needed a C-section and you weren't expecting that. And so there's you might be grieving the pregnancy plan that you had. And while it's a different type of grief, it's still, you want things to go the way you had it planned, or maybe you're terrified of a C-section, or maybe you lost a family member to postpartum hemorrhage. And so even though we're, really educating ourselves on the loss aspect, it's still really important to have, a plan as a nurse when you go in there. Hey, I might need to talk to this patient a little softer, or I might need to address their psychosocial needs rather than just their what's critical in my face needs as well.
Did y'all's OB rotation get y'all more involved in that aspect of, because I can imagine almost any other rotation you have, at least for me, I can imagine myself having a lot more anger first of like, no, we're going to do this and we're going to do it my way. Kind of like, stronger. And not that this isn't strong, but like, you know what I mean? Like you're kind of getting ready sort of thing. And then this, you had to, I can imagine doing this. I would need to have a step back and go, okay, I've got to change it. I can't, every situation, I can't win that way.
I know with the L&D rotation that we did, like I had a patient who everything was fine with her prenatal care. Everything was fine leading up to the pregnancy. And then during the actual delivery, they needed a laceration, and it ended up becoming a 4th degree tear, which is a very, very long, very intensive recovery process. It's a psychosocial recovery. It's a physical recovery. It's a life role, entire, change in their dynamic as far as a family. And being able to communicate with that patient was, the way that I had been taught to approach clinicals was, oh, well, how was your pregnancy? How was your delivery? Was the baby what you were expecting weight-wise? And, walking into that room and realizing, oh, I can't come in here and ask you about your baby. I need to ask you about you, And so even in I think that was my 3rd clinical. So even, just my 3rd time on the L&D unit, realizing even though L&D is considered we're the birthday specialists, we're the happy place, hey, there's some pretty intense stuff that happens here. And
I can't imagine it being anything but intense. Either real intense happiness or some real intense sadness, because there's almost no in between with, especially on a delivery day.
Right.
There's no in between of I have a healthy baby and I don't have a healthy baby. Whether that is a baby who's in NICU or whether it's a baby who has passed. One of those two. I can't. Man, that's a roller coaster. I couldn't.
Well, and it can go from 0 to 100 very quickly. I remember one of my rotations, we were in there and all prenatals were great. There was no complications leading up to it, and as soon as the baby's head came out, doctor realized the baby was polynuchal, and the cord had been wrapped 3 times around the baby's neck.
What's that word?
Polynuchal, the cord is wrapped more than once around.
Okay.
And mom never got to hold the baby. Immediately, cord was cut, baby was shipped off to NICU. Everybody was screaming, crying, praying, and you're just like, holy cow, that went from nothing to everything all at once. And all this mom wanted to do is hold her baby, and she couldn't do that. So what we ended up doing was one of us had her husband's phone and one of us had her phone, and we went and we FaceTimed her from the NICU so that she could just see her baby, even though she couldn't hold it. And I think little things like that is kind of what SNAIL's trying to just how to just be accommodating and be compassionate where you can.
Step out of the nursing role and step into the human
caretaker. Yeah. I know that School of Nursing really prides itself here at Troy with all the simulation that we really advocate for, trying to make sure the students have a lot of access to different simulations and being able to practice that. But that's a hard simulation to want to, first off, create, and then 2, to put someone through to prepare them, especially when it's maybe not their specialty. But I mean, that is definitely something that would probably be useful to, at the minimum, talk about. And I'm glad that SNAIL is going to be able to provide that.
Right. I think that's a big driving force here is a lot of nursing school feels like trial by fire. And when it comes to something as heavy and as serious as losing a child, trial by fire is not really the way to go about it. And so having a resource, having a student organization that is focused on, how do we care for these patients? How do we enter the room? How do we initiate this conversation? Even the way that I'm going to walk in the room, I'm not going to walk in, flip on the lights, and, present myself as competent, bright, and cheery. I'd rather, walk in and, hey, maybe I'll keep the lights dim. Maybe I'm going to, keep this as low stimulus as possible. And once they're ready, hey, I'm so sorry for your loss. Like, I'm not going to shy away from the fact that it happened, because that's just diminishing their feelings about it. And so having that resource for students really helps with.
And I mean, like, down to biology, the crying part really does help with stress relief. So they're bottling it up and mind running a mile a minute about it, that having that, like, external validation helps, and probably helps move them into the next phase of, maybe not the next phase immediately, but, like, helps move them through the grieving process for that moment.
But it helps with the normalcy of it too, I'm not, it would be extremely untherapeutic, unhelpful for me to walk in and say, well, sometimes God works in mysterious ways. That's not going to be.
You can try again.
Yeah. So encouraging their loss and encouraging, the fact that, hey, this happened. I recognize it. I cannot put myself in your shoes. But I am here for whatever you need. If you need me to be quiet, if you need to talk about it, if you need maybe a comfort item,
Yeah, and especially if their response is like, I don't know what I need. SNAIL is at least help students to prepare with, well, maybe this is the first step we need to take. Maybe let's just let's get up and let's go to the bathroom together, and then I'll ask you some questions, and help guiding them through. Helping people who don't know what to do after, knowing, well, these are some of the steps you can take. These are some of the things you can do that can at least get you started with a conversation, just a conversation in the moment.
Right.
Any advice for those students either about to start their LND or any way to prepare for the possibility of infant loss and what to do?
Well, without sounding like a plug, I would say join SNAIL. If you can, especially whenever you're on your rotation, if you do see Miss Colley, she's incredibly educated in this topic. She spent a very long time. She's the one who started it at Southeast Hospital, and she's very well rehearsed in how do we care for these patients. And something else I learned on the floor was a lot of the nurses that you get assigned to are part of the bereavement care team. They they're either working whenever there is a active loss on the floor, or they're working in the background of, getting keepsakes together or preparing the boxes together. Another part of that is what I've been told by every nurse who is a part of it, is that even if you are the nurse, the primary nurse for the patient who's experiencing the loss, the whole floor is working together toward that loss. Everybody feels the weight of it. Everybody, maybe picks up and helps with other patients or helps take the workload off, because as much as you might feel prepared and hopefully, through this organization can feel prepared for it to happen, it's still not going to be easy. It's not going to be light. It's not going to be, you might feel more prepared to deal with it, but you're not going to be, you can't be ready for it, And so they've told me that a big helpful thing is, sharing that grief with each other. Losing a patient is hard for the family and for the nurse, but also for the whole floor.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming and talking with us about this. At least educating me. I know that you and Brooke are, in the same cohort, and y'all have gone through this and all this, but I'm very thankful for the education I've gotten today on it, and I want to support y'all as much as I can. But thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, we've come full circle on this episode of The Rounds. We want to thank our guest, Kinsey, but before we go, don't be afraid to press that call button. Record a voice memo with your question for our guests and send it to KROSS120311 at troy.edu. It can be anything from, how do I get started in nursing to why does it hurt when I do this? Quick disclaimer, nothing you hear on the round should be considered medical advice. If you have a serious medical question, please ask your doctor.
You can stay up to date on new episodes of The Rounds by subscribing on the podcast platform of your choice. And be sure to share with the nurse or nursing student in your life. The Rounds is recorded in the studios of Troy Public Radio and is produced by Austin Toy, Kate Nesbitt, and the College of Health Sciences at Troy University.
So, until next time, I'm Kate.
And I'm Brooke.
We'll see you again next month when The Rounds returns.